Hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of the Lions Grid. Of course, we were doing the one episode a day to kick off the preseason, so it's been a little while since we've been here talking to you, but we're back again today to give you our thoughts on the really terrible preseason game between the Patriots and the Lions. Joe, of course, is back here with me, Mr. Joseph Wilmot, and we're going to talk about our feelings about the show, Joe. So, of course, the outcome of the game, 31-3. Is there, I know I caught your In Sports podcast, and I sensed some strong emotion there. Is there anything you want to kick off today's show with? Is there anything still burning from even after that podcast?
Yeah, they give you an option to label it explicit or not. And I was like, well, finally, I don't have to make them all explicit. I can just have one be explicit and then get back to clean cut commentary on the other. So I was happy to voice my frustration. But anything else that I have from that game is, just poor effort all around. You would think guys trying to make the team, you would think the will to want to succeed would be there, but it's really just lackadaisical, not executing plays, bad play calling, just bad all the way around. You had a few good plays in there. Patricia wants to focus on the good plays. I don't understand that. There was two good plays in the entire game. The field goal didn't even go in, and I'm just saying, he wants to focus on the good from the game, but what? Why would you want to just put up that against the Patriots in preseason and say, well, there are some good to draw from the game? I mean, you can't just, if you got that much bad, you gotta eliminate that much bad. That's what you gotta do. You can't just build off the good two plays you had, unless that's all you have. If all you have is two good plays, I guess that's what you have to build on. But the Patriots looked like they were playing for the playoffs in that game.
Yeah, I think it's definitely an interesting point to say, hey, we're going to just try and build off the good when there was so much bad there to try and address. You think the easier strategy would be to go ahead and try and address all those things that went wrong in the game. We'll have to see. It is a preseason game, so I'm not necessarily, and you can see there'll be highlights of the game streaming up above us here now, but a lot of them are going to be Patriot centric, just because, again, 31-3 stomping at the hands of the Patriots. But it's one of those things where it's a little worrisome, I would say. I don't put too much stock in the preseason, especially the early games where the starters aren't out there a whole lot. I mean, there were definitely some guys out there that played a little bit. I think the starting offensive line, or the projected starting offensive line, played a series in each of the first three quarters. I know Darius Slay got a little bit of action, but they didn't have all the starters out there together. They kind of played periodically, so it definitely the same could be said about the Patriots, though. So it was their, backup guys against our backup guys, and their backup guys beat us down. But it's hard to say what this really shows towards how the Lions are going to perform in the regular season. I guess the concern on my part is, we've talked about it. You look at sort of the national sports media with ESPN, Fox, all of them, and then you look at Las Vegas betting, where they're projecting the Lions to finish the season. There's a lot of people that are really down on the Lions. And so we talked about the need to start the season strong. Yes, this is the preseason, so it doesn't count towards that any potential playoff or anything like that. But when everyone's saying you're going to be bad and you come out and get undressed by the Patriots and beat 31-3 at home, it kind of makes you worried that maybe some of those reports about the Lions being bad might be true.
Yeah, the diehard Lions fans have an opinion about, playoffs, Super Bowl, division, playoff team. And the naysayers say, oh, it's just a copycat, a poor man's Patriot team. And wannabe Patriot team. We got Patricia, we got Bob Quinn, we got Trey Flowers, Danny Amendola. Just move everybody from the bit. No, can't just take players from that organization, bring them to the Lions, and have them have the success in the Patriot organization. Matter of fact, there's not a single good player in the Patriots organization. It's built on a team effort.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's not going to work in Detroit, because it's not a team effort.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair point. As we were talking, it was their number twos and number threes and all their backups against ours. So you can sort of see the difference where even if, the Lions do come out and their starters look much better, I will probably see them in week 3 because I don't think they're going to be doing much here in the upcoming game against Houston. So in the third preseason game, we'll probably get our best look at the starters playing together. And even if they look sharp, I think, if you look at that game against the Patriots, it highlights the difference between the two teams in the fact that, even with the Patriots, with the championship pedigree they have, even their backups are so in tune with what the game plan is. They have that next man up mentality. So you're never going to know what injuries you're going to have through the course of the season. And their guys behind their starters are ready to fit into the scheme in the game plan that the team has. You look at the Lions, it doesn't look like the backups are ready to fit into the scheme and the game plan that Matt Patricia and the Lions have. And maybe hopefully that's not reflected in the starters. Hopefully that's just limited to the backups. But with the amount of injuries you see in an NFL season, there's a real chance that some of those guys who we saw struggle are going to be needed to be called upon. And hopefully, with more weeks underneath them, they'll have a better feel for everything. But one preseason game in, definitely seems like there's a lot of work to be done there for the Lions because it was an ugly game.
People say they're going to throw out the game footage. Yeah, you probably should have just threw out the game footage. The game was a wash. There's nothing to draw good about the game. You can't sit there for hours upon hours upon hours and try to tell everybody that made a bad play what's going on and why they made a bad play. Some things just can't be corrected. Some things are about instinct, and some things are about, what you adapt to in the system of schemes and offense and defense and execution of X's and O's. And the game footage isn't going to do you any good to sit down in a theater room and to watch the game footage and say what you did wrong. You only gain, practice by seeing it on the field, by a real experience. You can't get that experience watching it on TV. There's nothing that can be learned watching it on TV.
Yeah, it's one thing if you can go back and look at the game footage and there's a couple of moments to look at, but as we talked about, it was really the whole game. There was a lot wrong that happened, and I think one of the things that even you can spend as much time in the film room as you want, the lines just seemed flat. Like the Patriots came out there. I want to say that loss they had to us in the regular season last year, you better believe Bill Belichick remembered that loss, and I have to say that probably played a factor in what happened because he had his guys ready to come out and avenge that loss. Even though it was preseason, he still remembers that we beat them last year in the regular season, and he wanted...
Bill Belichick is the most boringest guy there ever was. He literally has a system. His system works. Yeah, it's brought them Super Bowls and a dynasty, but literally it's the most boring old man system that you could possibly have. But it works. Why does it work? I don't know. Sometimes he cracks a funny joke, but you wonder where that comes from. The great mind of Bill Belichick. What is in store for him this year? What's he got up his sleeve this year? What's Tom Brady got up his sleeve this year? They going to repeat as Super Bowl champs again? God, I hope not. That's so overplayed.
Yeah, the good news is the last few years it's been Belichick and Saban doing that. I'll win one year, you win the next. So, if the pattern continues, the Patriots shouldn't win the Super Bowl this year. But you might want to bet on Alabama winning the national championship. It's Saban's year, so we'll see. We'll see. That's just
Alabama's not winning the national championship. They got a bunch of meatheads on their team. They're too slow of it. Yeah, they can hit hard, but they're a physical team. But they lack speed. They lacked intelligence, and they're just got a big reputation. All they got to do is dumb down their reputation, and then it's a game changer. You know, you can win, but you can't win trying to be a Bama team like Michigan has done the last couple of years. You can't play like a Bama team if you're not Bama. You have to get back to fundamental. Play like a Michigan team. I know you're a State fan, so you're not really liking this part. But if you want to win, you know, all your games, go to a good bowl game, play for the title game, you have to play your school's brand of football. Get back to the basics. Talking about the Lions. They have to play the Lions championship way of football, whatever way that is. It might not be Stafford going 28-15 with 5,000 yards. It may be Stafford going 17-28 with 150 rushing yards and 300 passing yards and 4 TDs, 5 interceptions. You know, who cares about the statistics?
Yeah, I think that's a good parallel you drew there between obviously the Patriots, Alabama, both very successful at their various levels. So lots of people try to replicate their success, and you have to remember that your team is not those teams. We've seen plenty of people try and be the Patriots. You see many people try and be Alabama. You're not those programs. You don't have it down as well as they do. So it's okay to try and emulate some of the things that make them successful. But if you're going to try and be a carbon copy of them, it's not going to work. And we've seen that. And hopefully, you hope that Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia are aware of that, because they're not the first New England Patriots or former
but
Patriots to go.
How can they change it? How can they change from coming over to New England, getting New England players, getting a New England coach? How can they not be copycatting what New England is doing and still be doing it the Lions way by getting their asses handed?
Yeah, I think that's this we'll have to see how the season goes.
You got to fire Quinn, you got to fire Patricia, you got to get rid of Flowers, you got to get rid of Amendola, you got to get rid of all these guys and do it the Detroit Lion way.
Yeah, I mean, this season will be sort of the proof in the pudding. But you're right. You look at it, you look at all the different pieces, the players, the coaches. We just said you can't try and be exactly the New England Patriots, and they're not doing a whole lot to show that they don't know that you can't do it by trying to be the Patriots, because they're bringing in the former players, the former coaches. You have to have, you can't try and do it the exact same way, and it seems like they might be trying to do it the exact same way. And, this will be the third season with Bob Quinn. We'll have to see. After one preseason game, I'm not super optimistic, but again, it's just the preseason, so I'm not going to overreact. Yeah, it's time to put up or shut up. So we'll have to see what happens. Otherwise, you're right. I think if this is another dud of a season, it's going to be time for Martha Ford and Rod Wood to start evaluating whether or not it's time to be making some big changes, because the Detroit Patriots isn't going to work. So we're gonna see. But yeah, definitely 1 week into the preseason. We tried to copy the champs. The champs came in and they showed us that there's still a long way to go before we're even close to being at their level. Again, just the backups, so not too crazy, but definitely, I think, leaves a bad taste in your mouth if you're a Lions fan to start the season. Obviously, I think people were getting excited. Football's back. Then you happen to go to Ford Field and see a 31-3 loss where the Lions just didn't even look competitive. Yeah, not a great way to start the season. But
so what about these Texans? I mean, are we going to draw anything from the confrontation that J.J. Watt had with the Detroit Lions and Matt Patricia. I just saw about that on 97.1 The Tick this morning, and they were talking about, being at practice and having tensions get heated up and having J.J. Watt go crazy and try to get in a physical contest, not football physical contest, but,
Yeah,
that type of emotion between Matt Patricia and J.J. Watt.
I think certainly there can be some spillover. Obviously, I think they might not come out and say it, but I think definitely this game against the Patriots, they probably left feeling a little embarrassed. So you're probably not the happiest of campers there in the Lions, with Patricia and even the players themselves. So it definitely can spill over here towards the Texans, and we'll actually in our next video we'll take a look at we'll preview that preseason game, so we won't go too much into it at the moment. But yeah, I think there's a couple ways to channel it. You can sort of productively channel that energy into it and really come in focused and energized to play the Texans. Or you can, I hope it's not the case. You can sort of let yourself be distracted by that anger, and get into a bunch of mixed practice scuffles and things like that. Like, that's not the productive way to channel that energy. You're just focused on sort of fighting the other guy, beat him on the field, beat him on the scoreboard. So we'll have to see. Hopefully, it just boiled over a little bit there and it's nothing too much, and the Lions will come out and actually look energized against the Texans, but that'll be something to see here on the game's on Saturday. So yeah, we'll have to see. All right, well, it's I think we did find some good stuff to talk about. Me and Joe were talking before the show, not a whole lot to say just because of how bad the game was. And I know Joe, like I said, if I'll put a link down in the description of the video, but you can check out Joe's In Sports podcast if you want a little more raw emotional response to the game. It was closer to the game too. Obviously, we're a couple days out, so we've had time to digest and cool down. Joe's podcast was closer to the event, so he was still very much feeling the effects of that game. So we'll definitely put a link down to that in the description, and you can check that out. But yeah, I think the only other interesting thing to come out of that game, of course, is before we sign off here today, is just the whole backup quarterback thing. Obviously, Tom Savage was injured. I've heard.
I made a statement. Yeah. I made a statement that they need to sign Kaepernick. Cut that guy out of the picture. That guy's a bum. I don't want him on my team.
And their decision was to bring in Josh Johnson. So currently, you still have Savage, Fales, and Johnson, and of course Stafford, the number one. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. I'm not sure. I want to say Tom Savage had a concussion, but I know they were also saying it was undisclosed. I think it was a concussion.
And Jermaine Kearse got a broken leg.
Yes, he did. So, we were talking about position battles. That opens up another spot in that receiving core. So it's going to be interesting to see who can get the advantage there. We'll talk about it in the Houston Texans video, but there seems to be one candidate who's got a inside track at maybe that fourth receiver spot, but we'll tease that for next episode. All right. So that is actually going to do it for us today. As always, just want to thank everybody for viewing the video. If you did enjoy the show, do help the channel grow. Go ahead and hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. That will really help us out. And if you want to be kept up to date when all our videos are going live or when we hit a live stream, go ahead and ring the bell. That'll keep you up to date with when we're going live with everything or when a new video's up. So again, just want to thank everybody for tuning in. This has been the Lions Grid, and we'll see you back for our next episode, which will be a preview of the Houston Texans and the Detroit Lions. That'll do it for us. Bye-bye.